Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the two Ewes of Two Ewes Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at twoewesfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our Two Ewes Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Marsha. That's a
How are
big
you?
microphone you have there.
It does look quite large, doesn't it?
Well, especially because it's so close to the camera compared to, your face behind it. So, no, it's fine.
I don't touch it.
Yeah,
don't
leave it where it is. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, we have to say we're recording and we have people listening in.
Yeah. We've got Julie and Christina and Erica and Victoria and Autumn is here and Julie and Jen is here again and Dorothy's here. So yeah, I'm excited to see everybody. It's really fun. It's kind of a...
And Kristen.
And Kristen. How did I miss Kristen? Oh, I know, because she was on the first one. Hi, Kristen. So yeah, we've got an audience to our live recording again. Only our second one ever. So yeah, this is kind of fun.
Well, I'm here at the right time too.
Yes,
because I was already yesterday running around and getting set up with my microphone, and my son pointed out that it was Wednesday and not Thursday.
Did you see there was someone in the Ravelry thread who said the same thing this morning? And now I can't remember her name. She said, "Oh, I missed it." And I was like, "Oh, you and Marsha must have the same calendar."
I have nothing going on, like literally nothing on my calendar. Actually, I take it back. This week on Monday, had a vet appointment for Enzo. You can see him. I don't know if you can see him. He's laying on the bed.
His usual spot.
That black blob. That flat blob on the bed. That's Enzo. No, I took him to the vet on Monday because he is limping. His right rear leg, he's kind of limping. So we had a vet visit. But that's the only thing I've been doing. So, like everybody, one day is running right into the next day. Mm-hmm. Amy Greenhook on Ravelry and Instagram said that she went to a doctor's appointment an hour early because she's never changed her clocks from daylight savings time, which I believe was the beginning of March. So I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I don't remember when it was, but yeah. No, you're not the only one.
You have, because you're working, you have a schedule, right?
Yeah.
I have nothing.
Yeah. Nothing to
keep me rooted in reality. So I'm not rooted in reality at all.
During the summer, I would always, if I hadn't already done it, I would change my computer screen to show not just the time, but what day it was in the top. So and right now it's showing to Thursday, 2:40 p.m. But kind of funny because that's kind of how I am in the summer. And now Robert's work schedule has changed. His days off changed, and they've put them down to 30 hours a week so that they don't have so many people at the plant at the same time. So his work schedule has now changed. So he goes into work later. So poor Aunt Betty is really messed up because she's kind of in the same situation. It's, my work schedule and Robert's work schedule that kind of helps her know what day it is. And so everything's totally crazy on that front for her too.
I think we're going to try and have as we said the last time we recorded, a virus-free episode.
Yeah.
But I have to say, one of the things that's been very interesting to me is there's nothing happening. So when I get the newspaper, I get both the Seattle Times and the New York Times, and when I read them, it's all coronavirus, and everything associated with it, whether it be the stimulus package, everything. And then when I go look at the lifestyle section or like the food section or the arts and entertainment section, there's nothing. I mean, yes, there's something there, but very little because I don't think they're probably publishing any new books. They're not releasing new movies in the theaters, obviously. People aren't really committing crimes to talk about, I mean, I've heard that, break-ins are down because everybody's home and I just there's really nothing to talk about. And so, of course, Ben lives with me. And so every night at dinner, and I've cooked every single night since the beginning of March and I'm tired. I want someone to make me dinner. But we sit there and look at each other and probably everybody's having the same experiences. What do you talk about? If you need a break from the world, what do you talk about? So I've been trying every night to find something to talk about. And my new thing now is just to go online and read jokes. So we sit at the dinner table and have our phones and read jokes to one another.
That could be dangerous if it was a really funny joke and you had something in your mouth as the other person was reading
soup
the joke.
Or something, yeah.
Oh my
anyway.
gosh. Yeah. Well,
and I'm just going to point out. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm wearing my bird pin. I don't know if anybody can see that.
Yeah, it's
for
cute.
Summer and spring.
So
my little bird.
While you're doing that, why don't you tell us about your sweater?
Oh, I'm not
that you're wearing.
To talk about that.
The one that you're wearing.
No, I know.
You don't know what it is?
I'm sorry. Okay, so what is it again? I believe it's... You know how bad I am? I have to look at it, right? If you ask me about something I made a year ago, I believe it's fine sand.
Oh, okay. The Heidi Kermeyer one.
Yes, how can I forget that it's Heidi Kermeyer? But fine sand.
Is that the dove stone?
No. Okay, Kelly, I'm not.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you.
You can edit this part out. Huh?
I didn't mean to do that to you. I'll let you look at it. I'll let you look it up because anyway, the reason that
you talk about your sweater
was
that you
asking,
have on.
Yeah, the reason that I was asking is because I purposely chose this sweater today, even though it's actually I could just be wearing a t-shirt. It's warm enough, but I chose this sweater today because I wanted to show people this sweater. We don't have the opportunity usually to show off what we've knit, just talk about it. So I'm showing off today. This is the sweater that I started my very first time I went to Stitches, and it's a pattern. Well, let me tell the story first. Since we, let's see, I'll show a little bit more. Buttons from my button stash. So this sweater, I went to Stitches for the very first time, and I was a spinner, not a knitter, and so I was mostly uninterested in all the yarn. It's like, I can make that. I can make yarn. And this was, back, I don't know, 2000, maybe 99, 2000, 2001, something like that. When I had been spinning for a little while and went to Stitches for the first time. But I saw this yarn, and it's silk from Tess Yarns. And I picked up a skein, and I had no idea how much yarn it took to make a sweater. That's how new I was. And, I wasn't really a knitter much. I was just a spinner. I knit hats and things. I knit socks, but I was never really interested in making a garment. So I didn't know how much yarn it took to make a sweater. So I picked up the skein of Tess Yarns, 100% silk, and this beautiful variegated blue and this acidy green when acid green was kind of new. And I wasn't sure, so I thought, I'll get a second skein. So I got a second skein. And there weren't prices, and there was a price list, but I didn't see it. And how much can a skein of yarn cost, right? So I stand in this. So first I thought I would buy it, and I didn't. And my mom and I walked all around Stitches, and I lost it. I wanted to get it, and I couldn't find the booth again. So we finally find the booth again, and I'm like, yeah, I am going to buy this yarn. And then there's this really huge line. So I wait in this really huge line to buy my yarn. When I get up to the front, I think it was like $110 worth of yarn, which it was 2 skeins. To me, that was, I mean, that was like unbelievable that I could have had $110 worth of yarn in my hand. I just like was totally stunned. But we had hunted all over for it, all over the stitches. I had waited in line for a really long time. I thought, I'm just buying it. So I bought it.
Yeah, you have to buy it after all of that, right?
I had to buy it after all that. And I am really glad that I did. And it turned out to be enough. I had the right amount. But I didn't know what I was going to make for it. I wasn't buying it for a particular purpose, except I knew I wanted to make a sweater. So then I found brand new knitter, never made a garment before. So, of course, what do? I find a pattern in a 1948 knitting magazine. And I start the sweater. And also, I decide I don't want to knit a sweater in pieces. I want to knit this thing all in one. So I figured out how I was going to do it. I need the right front, the back, the left front. I need to take out this extra stitch that they put in for the seaming. Got it all organized, started the sweater, bottom up. So I start the sweater and I knit for, I don't know, a few months on this, off and on. It's a lace pattern, right? You can see it's a lace pattern. Mm-hmm. This is not like your easiest knitting. Struggle. But I just love this yarn. And then I got to the point where I had to put the sleeves on and I did not know, I could not make the pattern make sense. Because patterns in 1948 said, while staying in pattern, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. They don't tell you how to stay in pattern and increase or decrease for raglan shaping. They don't explain to you how the raglan construction works. There were, it's like one page, a sweater pattern on one page in a magazine from 1948. So I put it away for about 10 years until I finally decided I was going to make a bottom-up baby sweater, understand the construction. Once I understood the construction, I went back to this sweater and I was able to finish it. So some people have already heard this story. But this is my very favorite sweater of all the sweaters I've ever made. I love this sweater. And mostly I love it because it was like a disaster waiting to happen. And it came out so well.
Yeah.
And also when you look at the yarn, this is variegated yarn in a lace pattern. That could have been a disaster too. I didn't alternate skeins. That could have been, because I didn't even know about alternating skeins. With a hand-dyed yarn, that could have been a disaster. So many things could have been disastrous. And instead, I got a sweater that I just love. So this is my favorite sweater of all the sweaters that I've made. And so I thought, since I had the opportunity to show it, I would talk about that today.
And then I'm going to answer the question. So it is fine sand, Heidi Kermeyer, the sweater that I'm wearing, and the yarn is Fibra Natura Unity. And I bought it at Imaginits in San Francisco.
Oh, right. Okay. I remember that. Yeah.
Remember that time I went to, I don't have the date in here, but that time I went to Knockers, I think. No, did I go to Knockers or was it Stitches? I can't remember. And then I went on to San Francisco and spent the weekend.
I think it was Stitches, but I don't remember.
Yeah. Anyway.
One of the times you came to visit.
Yeah. Just a side note about your sweater and about, just a thought of this and about how patterns, they assumed that the knitter knew a lot more than maybe we know today. And I have sort of developed an obsession, probably an unhealthy obsession with Arne and Carlos and their YouTube videos about the quarantine knitting. They had a knit along. But then I was just going back and looking at old videos, and they had a series, I think there's 5 different parts where they're just showing sweaters from their collection. And most of them are from Arne's family. His grandmother and great-grandmother made all these sweaters. Beautiful sweaters. I mean, they're really, really beautiful. And he said, oh yeah, these were work sweaters, because it sounds like, and I don't know their whole history, but it sounds like his family owned a dairy farm. And so they would just wear these sweaters to go out and herd cattle and milk cattle, and they're beautiful.
Oh, wow.
But they didn't have any patterns. His grandmother and great-grandmother didn't have patterns. They just knew how to knit, and they just made these sweaters.
Sort of oral tradition knitting.
Yeah. And even the Arne and Carlos, I've never made any of their patterns. I did buy, when Kristen and I were together, I'm waving at Kristen, we went, remember I bought the Arne and Carlos bird book. And so anyway, but I've never made any of their sweaters, but just hearing them talk about their sweaters, they sound like they're sort of more of that tradition of, here's the charts, you can figure it out. That's what they were saying about one of their sweaters, is that here's the charts and you can kind of figure it out. So I don't know. Maybe someday I'll make one of their sweaters. I've yet to make a bird, but anyway. So
yeah. Well, the sweaters that they wear, that I've seen them wearing, are really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. They were showing one. I was watching a video where they were showing one from their newest collection, and it was the traditional Norwegian star shape, but the stars were all outlined with pearl stitches. So it had a bit of a sort of a 3-dimensional look.
Oh, nice.
Very interesting, yeah. So if anybody has a chance just to look at some of their old videos, they're just really fun. They just seem like really cool guys, and I just like their whole life up in the mountains on this lake, and very cool.
You'll have the opportunity to probably see them at some point, because I know they've come before to your area, to Seattle, for one or two of the different knitting events that they have in that area.
I know they come for the Nordic Museum. It used to be the Nordic Heritage Museum. It's now just the Nordic Museum. They come, I think, every year. They have come for when there's a knitting event there. They come, but I've never been able to get tickets for it. It sells out, and I think they teach a class and then they just give a talk. There's 2 events. But
okay.
Anyway, should we talk projects?
Yeah, let's do. I'll only talk about the happy news of what I've been working on first. So
okay.
I finished this morning. Well, actually, I finished it before this morning, but I washed it this morning. It's a good day to talk about my spinning because I have video to show. It's kind of nice to show what my spinning looks like. So this is the Shaky K fibers.
Oh, right, yeah. Ooh, that's pretty.
Fiber that I bought at Stitches, and it was bright red, bright yellow, kind of a tealy blue color. There was a magenta in there, and so I spun it up, and I had planned to do kind of a really intentional spin where I would divide it up into 3 parts, and do different things with each one of the 3 plies. But the dog got to the braid first, and so my plan got to be a little bit revised. So the first ply was the bits that she had kind of torn apart like a combo spin, and then the second ply was the rest of the braid where I didn't split it at all, so really long color repeats. And then the third ply was a part of the braid where I split it lengthwise, so the fiber was thinner, so that when you spin it up, for those of you who don't spin, if you're spinning a piece of fiber that's really thick, then an inch of color is going to take a long time to spin out, or 4 inches of color is going to take a long time to spin out. If you have a piece of fiber that's really thin, that same 4 inches of color is going to take a much shorter space in your yarn. So those were my 3 plies, and this is what I got. And it's a Columbia Corriedale Rambouillet blend. So it's really super squishy, and I'm thinking I'll use it for socks. It's probably not as durable a sock yarn as I might want, but I just really like the way it looks.
It's really pretty. So, how many yards colorful. Do you think you have?
I don't know. I didn't measure. It's probably about sport weight. So I'm gonna guess I maybe have around 300 and something. I'm pretty sure I don't have 400 yards. I probably have maybe 350. I don't know. That's totally a guess. There's some parts of it that are fingering weight, but most of it is, on average, is probably more like a sport weight. So I finished that. And then I started, and I washed this, and it's not quite dry. It's a little damp still. But the other fiber that I got at Stitches was from Alexandra Art of Yarn. And I don't think you can really see this color very well. Let's see if I can get it to show. It's gold and sort of cranberry burgundy color. I'm not sure it's really showing on screen. Maybe it's fairly accurate. It's more gold than I thought it was going to be when it was in the singles. When I started spinning the singles, it looked a lot more of the burgundy color. And then when you apply it, I don't know, you know this, Marsha, yellow, sort of yellow tones kind of take over. And so if you want to use yellow in something, you have to make sure you use less yellow than you actually think you're going to need. So I think the gold tones in this kind of took over. It's still really pretty, and it still matches. I have I didn't bring them out here, but I have 2 skeins of a burgundy color of wandering wool, silk and merino, and that's what this is too. It's gray, merino, and silk, and then it's over, the merino and the silk are over dyed, and that was all kind of jumbled in the fiber. It wasn't really thoroughly blended on purpose, so you get the variation in the color. So I washed both of these skeins this morning, and one of the things that I just wanted to mention is about washing them. Whenever you have something that's really bright or something with red in it, I always expect to have it bleed. And there are a lot of people who are kind of strict about the amount of dye bleeding that they're willing to put up with in their yarn, for example, hand-dyed yarn. But you have to kind of give a little, I think, this is just my opinion, you have to give a little bit of leeway, I think, to dyers who dye fiber, because you can't do as much messing around with it or you'll make it felted.
Right. Yeah.
And so I always kind of expect some bleeding to happen when I wash, when I wash things that I've spun, the yarn that I've spun. I expect there to be some bleeding of the color, especially if the colors are really saturated, like in this Shaky K skein. And so, and I did. There was quite a bit of bleeding, but I wash it with laundry detergent. We have like I sometimes use Dawn dish detergent. If I'm washing out in the backyard or in the laundry room, I'll use the laundry detergent that we use, like 7th generation or one of those, just a little bit of that in some hot water. I usually use really hot water. That's one of the reasons that I expect bleeding to happen too. I usually use really, really hot water when I first wash the skein, because if there was any spinning oils in it, I want to make sure I get those out.
Oh, okay.
And then once I've washed it the first time in really hot water, then after that I just use sort of mildly warm water. And then the other thing I wanted to mention about spinning a 3-ply, you've done a 3-ply, Marsha, right?
Yeah.
So you try really hard to get the same amount of fiber on each bobbin, right? Each of your 3 bobbins.
Right.
And those of you out there who spin, well, even those of you who don't, I'm sure you can imagine that you're never spot on. It never works. Even if you very, very carefully measure it out, if you don't spin perfectly consistently, you're going to get, one of them is going to run out before the other when you're trying to ply it. So I just wanted to talk about what I did.
Okay.
So one of my bobbins ran out. And so then what I do is I take the other bobbin that has the most on it, and I put that into a center pull ball. So I wound it into a ball on my ball winder. And then I ply from the outside and the inside of the center pull ball and my remaining bobbin. And I do that until something runs out. And then depending on how much is left, I might try to split it up in some way. But usually once I do that, I'm left with a pretty small amount. And that's what happened here. Once I use that center pull ball and the remaining bobbin.
So I have a question. Do you spin all the fiber at once, or do you spin three bobbins and ply that together, and then is it just enough fiber to fit on 3 bobbins?
Yeah, with just a 4-ounce braid, I spin it all before I ply, because I don't even fill a bobbin. A third of a 4-ounce braid doesn't even fill one of my little Herbie bobbins.
So with with my combo spin, that's the last thing I've spun, I think. That green one is I would fill up a bobbin, fill up 3 bobbins, ply that, and then what was left, I would usually run out of 1 bobbin, and then I'd stop, and then I would just fill up those 3 bobbins again. So that's how I did it.
Yeah, that's what I did with CVM that I was spinning, that I have a sweater quantity of that I want to dye. Yeah, that was a long project, and yeah, I don't mess around. I admire people who do it. I think it's probably technically more correct, and you might get a better spinning product. The people who spin it all first and then put it onto storage bobbins and then ply from the storage bobbins and mix up, what you spun in the first part of your spin and what you spun in the last part of your spin, and kind of mix them up and randomize them. I think you probably do get a more consistent spin that way, but I've never done that. I just spin till I have enough to ply, and then spin more and ply and spin more and ply, because I do not want to wait.
Well, I'm with you, Kelly. I can't wait. I have to see what it looks like.
Yeah. I want to see what it looks like, the transformation. Like this one, this is just a 2-ply, but this one, the braid looked one way. Well, both of them are like this. The fiber looked one way, and then the singles, once I spun them, I was like, oh, I really like this. I'm going to pair it with this other yarn that I have. It looks really pretty, but I knew in the back of my mind that it might not look good together once I finished plying it. That, once I finish plying it, I might have to rethink it, because there is a transformation at every phase. So, I just, thanks Jen, and thanks Autumn. They're complimenting me on my spinning. So it felt really good to do some spinning. It was the perfect thing for me to be working on over the last couple of weeks, because my cotton cardigan, I think I have sad news.
Uh-oh.
Remember the episode where I said, if you have to keep saying it's fine, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. No, it'll be fine. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be fine.
I think we decided if you say it 3 times, it's not fine.
Yeah, so I tried it on, and I really like it. I don't know if you can see this. I tried it on. I really like it. But what's happening, when I first tried it on, it was like up here, and this was staying under my arm, the seam. And I don't know if you can see, if it will really even show how messy this seam is. This is the place where...
Oh, yeah, I can...
This right here is the place where the yarn... where I alternate my skeins, right? And I ripped it out once because it was messy, and then I did it again, and it was better, and I thought it was under the arm, but I don't know if you can tell. Do you see how it's skewing? Well, I don't know if you can see this because I don't have a big enough screen, but
are you saying is it
here's
twisting?
Where it starts, and it twists around into the front. So I've got the seam, now that it's long enough, I've got the seam coming under my arm for a long time, and then it swipes across into the front of my t-shirt.
So what's your theory about why that's happening? Or no theory?
I don't know.
Oh,
because
you don't even want to talk about it, right? I'm sorry. I'm laughing. I'm
bad.
sorry.
I'm laughing too.
Okay.
There's a book that's called, I think it's called Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine.
Oh. Okay, I'm writing this down.
My t-shirt is completely fine and I'm going to have to rip it out. So I'm ripping back to the underarms and I'm going to put in the faux seam and I'm going to do the switch of the yarn, the alternating of skeins right before or after the faux seam. And that's what I did with my Summer Fjord that I made. And it seemed to work.
Did you, with the Summer Fjord, did you alternate skeins?
Yes.
You did? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I had that one skein that had been sun damaged or sun faded.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to do an unpleasant ripping out job. But I'm gonna like this enough that it's worth doing, because if I finish it and it has a seam coming around the front of my sweater, I won't wear it. So yeah, I think Jen said, is the fabric biasing? I think the fabric is biasing. It might be because it's cotton, and maybe cotton in some ways behaves like linen. They're both plant fibers. It might also be because of the tension not being quite the same where I alternate skeins. You know how when you alternate the skeins and you kind of pull a little bit and it's a little tight. I think that might be part of it. It's hard to really know for sure why it's happening, but yeah.
I have a thought before you rip it out. What you might do is just put it on waste yarn, or just leave the needles in. I don't know if you can leave the needles in or not, but wash it and see if it corrects itself. Like if you wash it and get it, because cotton and linen, need the dryer. But if you washed and blocked it, would it go back to, or is it always going to, biasing is probably always going to bias, but it might be one thing to try before you rip out. A thought, but, or just rip the Band-Aid off, Kelly.
I'm kind of at that point now. I'm kind of at that point.
And what you need to, I would say, if you need to rip it out, what you need to do is just give it to Aunt Betty to rip out, or Robert to, like sometimes if somebody else rips it out, it's easier.
Aunt Betty gets the heebie-jeebies from stitches that are not on the needle. She never rips anything out. She always just unknits. And every once in a while when she's working on something where she has to unknit it, I'll say, just give it to me and I'll rip it out and put it back on the needles for you. Yeah. And she hands it to me and she's like, I can't watch you because I'll just like rip the needles out of it. Or a lot of times I'll say, oh, let me see that. And I'll grab her knitting, take her knitting. She's like, don't let it fall off the needles. Don't let it fall off the needles. So anyway, yeah, unpleasant, but I'll forget about it. Once I've ripped it out and started knitting on it again, I'll forget about the pain of ripping it out. That's how it works.
So I have 2 finished things. I finished the hat. Here's the hat. If you can see that with
that's nice. Yeah.
Traveling. And it looks more gray on the camera, but it's actually kind of a bluish green kind of. And that is the Goro Anamara hat by, I said Valerie last week. It's Valeria Garcia. And I used the Stonehedge Fiber Mill Shepherd's Wool. And this is the hat for, that remember I did the, twice I did the tubular cast on. And it was the first time the cast on worked great, but I used the wrong size needles. Second time the cast on was terrible. But anyway, so it's done. I just finished it this morning. So
nice.
It'll be going off to Cleveland. And then Kelly, I'm calling this done. I have to scoot back a little bit so people can see. my shawl I've been working on.
Oh, yeah.
It's
you have to
massive.
scoot back because it's so enormous.
Huge. I don't know if people can see that. And
I love the lace border.
I know. Isn't that cute? And I have, it's all done except for this side. I've started weaving in the ends of where I changed colors, but I have to finish that. I haven't done that yet. But this is the yarn that you dyed.
Oh, I did a good job, didn't I?
You did a good job. And and it's so this is Dusk Into Twilight by Rosemary Hill. And you were talking, just a little information, you're talking about washing and dye coming off. And a little bit came off of this. I mean, the water wasn't perfectly clear, but it wasn't, like, the yarn was not overly saturated. You know, I think a little bit of dye coming off is...
It's a lot easier to get yarn rinsed when you dye it than it is to get fiber rinsed, I think. Yeah.
But I really like this.
Well, good.
And
that looks really nice.
And I'm kind of excited about you. This is the one I started, I think, the night before I left to go to Iceland. And so I knit on this all the time on the bus. That's pretty much what I knit on that whole time. So I've got 2 finished things. I'm still working on my socks. And just before we started recording, I picked up this shawl. Where's my pattern? It's just called Simple Shawl. How could I not remember that? And it's just a very simple garter stitch shawl, which is basically just the center. You do 2 yarn overs in the center, and then on the right and left you do a knit through the front and the back. And I'm using a hand-dyed yarn that I bought, I think, that trip to San Francisco. It's kind of got blues and brown in it. And it's called San Francisco Fog. I remember that. And I cannot remember who dyed it, but it was an indie dyer in San Francisco. Here. Gorgeous shawl, Marsha.
Oh.
The border is stunning. Thank you. It was hard.
And Erica says she's leaving. Bye, Erica. Glad you could join us.
No, I would say that shawl has a picot bind off, and it was 425 stitches. But then, the picot bind off, you have to cast on 2, bind off 2, bind off another 2, cast on 2. Anyway, it was a lot of stitches. It took me about 2 days. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I've been working on this as we...
Nice.
But then the other thing I wanted to mention, though, is I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to cast on next, my next project. And I have people have made requests, so I don't know what I'm going to do. So people can vote. So I still haven't done my color workshop. But this is the Atlas Jared Flood. That's the one that my brother bought the yarn for it when he went over to Tolt. Do you remember these 3 colors? Mm-hmm. So I need to do my color work. I'm also thinking of a pattern called Siri. And this is, I don't know if you can see it, but you can't see it very well. But it has, the yoke is made with, those traveling, what do you call that? A traveling stitch? But it makes a...
traveling stitches?
Yeah, it makes a very geometric look. And I've lost my notes. It's right here. Linnea Oman. So I'm thinking of that. And the yarn I'm thinking of is I bought this when we went down to Seabrook. Blue Sky wool stock in this kind of natural color. Thinking of that for myself. And then, Kelly, I found this pattern too. Do you remember 10 million years ago when we went to Black Sheep Gathering and I bought the Wensleydale? That brown Wensleydale? I was thinking of, this is also another Jared Flood pattern called Watermark. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a jacket. And it has... Yeah,
that would be a good choice.
It again has this very geometric look to it. And I don't... The yarn's down in the basement. I didn't bring it up. And then Ben my son is asking for a sweater, which I'm surprised at. And my first thought I was going to make, because he's so tall and thin, I was thinking of making this one. It's called Flax by Tin Can Knits.
Oh, yeah.
But it goes from 0 to 6 months all the way up to a 4XL. So there's all these sizes. And I was thinking I should be able to find something to fit him out of that. It'd be an easy sweater to modify too.
Yeah.
And it's unisex. It shows it on the woman here on the back. It's like the whole family is in it. And a lot of people have made that pattern. But, and I was thinking this is what I was going to use. This yarn. And this is from North Ronaldsay. This is not
right.
you remember I won't go into but my story about getting that cone of yarn that the woman spun for me.
Yeah.
This is not it. This I bought at I bought this on Orkney at the Wool Shed, which when we did if you go back and listen to that episode, the dispatches that we did, there's a lot of artists on Orkney, and you can go on this artist trail, and she was on the trail, this Wool Shed. So I bought this, and it's just a natural gray. So I was thinking of making that sweater for Ben, but a couple after, when I was at Stitches, remember I met Frank Jernigan, and he has the company called Franco that you can do. He does sort of like the custom fit idea of sweaters, where it's a computer program that you put in all your sizing, and then it'll generate the pattern. The thing that makes his patterns unique is the fact that it's all knit from the top down, but the finished sweater looks like a set-in sleeve. But it's all knit. You're not knitted.
Okay, right. I remember
it's not
you talking
knit in
about
pieces.
that.
So anyway, I signed up. I registered on his website, and I have not done anything, but I think I'm thinking about making one of his sweaters. And then since I bring this up too, is I have to do a little housekeeping, because I remember when I met him at lunch at Stitches, and we had a great conversation. I learned all about his website, and he said, if you talk about it, make sure you get my name correct. Guess what? I didn't get it correct, and I even looked it up. I made the correct link, but I didn't do the correct spelling. So it's actually Franco, and it's PHRANCKO, and it's not PHRANKCO. I was like Franco, like Frank Company, like that, but it's not. It's I reversed the C and the K. So again, it's PHRANCKO.com. So if in the past we corrected it on the show notes from after Stitches, but I did want to make a note that I did give out I just transposed the letters. So anyway, but I think I might try that for Ben, because he is tall and thin. I think that it'll probably be a great fitting sweater. And then I also like that idea of experimenting with that idea of having it's a top-down knit, but it's going to look like a very tailored set-in sleeve. I'm interested to try it, so.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting, yeah.
Oh, I know. And the last one, too,
That'll be nice
Kelly,
to
do you remember when we went to Tolt and we bought Quince & Co., I want to call it Sparrow. I had to write it down. I know it's a bird. The linen to make this.
Oh,
and this is the Summer Fjord, which you've made. That's what you made out of the linen that you had to alternate, right? So we talked about doing that, so I'm thinking about that.
I might do that. I might do that next too. It's kind of nice. The weather's getting good. It's been beautiful here. Knitting with linen might be just the perfect.
Oh, and here we go. Autumn just
thing.
said, I have used Blue Sky wool stock to make a Lemmy K shawl. It's great yarn. So maybe I should try that. I don't know.
Oh, nice.
So many choices. Where to start?
I know. I have something that I'm thinking about that I'll talk about. But before I do, I wanted to, because we have the opportunity to do show and tell, I wanted to do one more show and tell.
Is this going to be Sunny Bono? Oh, no. Oh, no. I know what this is.
This is not Sunny Bono. This is my Ruana. It's still not hemmed. I was going to not show everyone. It's still not hemmed, but But here's the fabric.
And can we see those little twists that you were talking about?
Let's see if I can put it so you can see them. Like this is one.
Okay.
Here's another little loop. They like little curly
I see, yeah.
just kind of pop themselves out of the, here's another one right here. Little curly cues like popped themselves right out of the plies. And so it looks a lot like a boucle. Not as much, I think, as if I had woven it with a boucle. But maybe if you look at it this way too, you can kind of see them popping up above the, I don't know how much of this you really need to see. But anyway, I just wanted to show and tell because I think this fabric turned out so nice and I can't wait to wear it. It's going to be, I won't be able to wear it, I don't think. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that because I don't want the weather to turn bad again. So I'm not going to jinx myself. I can't wait to wear it. And maybe I'll have a chance to wear it before next winter. So, yeah, so that's done. And I just wanted to show off. But my next project, here's the swatch I made. This you're probably not going to be able to see very well. This is a swatch that I made for the fair because this is my Baby Doll South Down 3-ply that I entered in the fair not last year, the year before. And so I'm going to make socks. That's what I made this for, was socks. And I need a new project, and I need a new project that I don't have to think about. And so that's what I'm going to do. I picked this out today, and I'm going to wind it up into 2 balls. Probably not tonight, maybe tomorrow. And this will be my TGIF, start a new project. So, and then I'll have this on the needles. The pattern that I did for my swatch is kind of like a broken rib. And so I might try to use a broken rib pattern. I don't know. That might be a little more thinking than I'm really interested in doing these days. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to doing this. I spun this a couple of years ago. I got this at the fiber event, the spinning day.
Oh, no. The St. Distaff Day spin-in? Okay.
St. Distaff Day spin-in that we went to that year. So that's what I'm planning for my next project. So Marsha, you had some ideas about things you wanted to know from our listeners. And I have some prizes for the thread that you were talking about. So do you want to talk about the thread first, or do you want me to show the prizes?
Oh, I'll talk about the thread. It's pretty simple. I've gotten together not recently, but months ago with fellow knitters, and I always was interested to see the condition of their patterns and how people keep track of notes on their patterns. And I have 2 friends that they put their patterns in plastic sleeves, and then they have that Post-it notes on the outside of the plastic sleeve and make all their notes. And then I've also seen that the tape that looks like it's a clear tape that acts like a highlighter, but you can take it on and off. And okay, here's an example of one of my patterns. They just get all folded up. This is not a very good example, but the shawl that I just finished, there's like 1 million little marks on it. To keep track of my rows, I always just take graph paper and start making notes on it. So this is the contest. Post a picture of your pattern. Like, what does your pattern look like? How do you keep track of it? Some people, there's a computer program they use. Like, doesn't Knitty Barb, doesn't she use a program
Knit
on
Companion.
A computer, I think?
Knit
right.
Companion.
So my thing is just post a picture of what your pattern looks like. Is it like my friends, that it's all tidy and neat? Or is it like mine, that it's a ratted ball of sweaty paper?
Well, and yours are, all folded up and stuff, and then you have separate pages for all your notes. Mine has little check marks all over the face of the pattern. And then when I have to undo something, those check marks are crossed off. And then I do it again and there's check marks somewhere else. Like, it's a miracle I ever make it through a pattern, because I'm half the time, if I put it away, half the time I'm not sure what any of those marks even meant. So yeah, I am curious to see what people do.
I don't have it here. I think I have it. I threw it in the other room, but I'll post a picture of the pattern for the shawl, because that.
Oh yeah.
And because I was on a bus and folding it up and unfolding it and folding and unfolding, it's bad.
Practically
so I'm really curious to see. Huh?
Practically see-through in spots.
Practically, yeah. And so, and on the folds, you can't read the ink is gone now. So you don't.
Right.
So, I'm just really curious what other people's patterns look like, because I've seen everything, and now I'd like to see more. So anyway, tell them what the price is going to be.
Okay, so, well, I have a few of them, and these are skeins from, I'm going to show the springy, I think we'll use the springy ones. These are skeins from Laura at Duran Dye Works, and she was having a sale. She might still be having a sale. I think it was like a huge percent off, like 40% off or something. She's a substitute teacher in addition to a dyer and a farmer, and she had posted, that with no work, she was wanting to make as many sales as she could. And so I went, and she had a great sale, and she also had free shipping. So I bought 5 skeins, and she threw in a 6th one. So these 3 are all Easter colors. They're worsted weight, worsted to Erin. Let's see. She says, and they're Targhee, 100% Targhee. She calls it bulky weight. It's 198 yards in 100 grams. So it's a little bit bigger than like a Cascade 220. Like worsted to Erin is what it will knit up. And it's all these really pretty Easter colors, even though Easter is over. Nice springy colors. They're all different. So I've got those. And then, you know what? It could actually be winner's choice. We could do it that way. And then I've got these 3 that are more neutral. 2 of them are blue-green, kind of blue-green seaweedy looking colors. And then we've got this one, which is a neutral brown and gray and beige. These will be where we'll choose the prizes, and we can do winner's choice. And it's Duran Dye Works is who I bought them from. DuranDyeWorks.etsy.com. And it's Laura Duran. She's a friend of the Knockers retreat, and we see her fairly often. At California events. I'll see her at different places. So anyway, thought I would use these as prizes for that thread.
So Kelly, you'll put the thread up, and then we didn't really discuss this ahead of time necessarily. So what date should we have this go through? How long?
Let's have it go for about a month.
Okay. All right. We'll put the dates in the thread.
Yeah. Okay. Some people are a little bit behind on listening, so maybe a month and a half to give them time to find out about it. So yeah, we'll put the dates in the thread. I'll start it when I publish this episode. So sometime this weekend, I'll put the thread in our Ravelry group. So I think that will be really fun.
I'm going to add one more thing to the contest too. If you also want to say how you store your so let me just say, when I first learned to knit, the yarn shop I went to, she said, you should always, that was before Ravelry, you couldn't print things out. You had to just buy the pattern, but you would save the pattern, and then your swatch, you would put it all in a plastic sleeve and stick it in a notebook. And I started doing that. And then with all of my purging and cleaning, I threw that all out, because I've never once ever gone back and looked at it. And now with Ravelry, all that information you can constantly be printing out. Once you buy the pattern, you can just keep printing out another copy if you ever want to make the item again. So I guess my question too is, how do people store? Do they hang on to their patterns and hang on to all of that information about their swatches, or or do they let it go and just start fresh each time, and they save all this information? I'm curious about that too. So
okay,
anyway.
Yeah. So we'll put those questions in the thread. Well, thinking about saving your patterns, one of the things that I did when I got rid of all the stuff in the inside studio and got rid of the shelves and the cabinets and all of that. And I had to get rid of a bunch of stuff. I got rid of a bunch of magazines, but I did go through them, and there were a few places where I found a pattern that I liked. There was a pattern that I had been saving that magazine for, and I just tore out those pages. And so I do have a binder with sheet protectors of patterns of some of my printed patterns. And when I first started, I would print the pattern from Ravelry, and then after I used it, I put it into the binder. And they're all messy. They're all horribly messy. Even though I could print it again, I don't know why, but I thought I would just put it in there. But then I also have patterns that I purchased as print patterns, back in the olden days. And so those are in there. And then I put the patterns that I ripped out of the magazines. I put those, the ones that I wanted to save, I put those in there. But there's a lot of junk in that binder that I don't need. And I save my swatches, but I don't know why. The last time I went through my cabinet, I thought I should just send these all to my grandniece, and if she wants to use them for little Lego creature blankets or little doll blankets, or I don't know. My niece, her mom probably doesn't want them either, to be honest. But I thought, instead of throwing them away, I guess I could get use out of them that way. But yeah, I have a big pile of swatches. So, but I never attached a swatch to a pattern and put it in a binder. Yeah,
I did, and I've never looked at them ever. Once I finished the project, I never went back and looked at them. So, anyway, okay. And what's the next item?
Oh, I wanted to talk just a little bit about. There's been a lot of talk on Ravelry, the Ravelry group, about different kinds of. We had asked the question, what kind of alongs do people like, and Marsha and I still haven't finished talking through that and figuring out some of the things we want to do from those ideas. But one of the things that just came up recently is this idea of a summer spin along. And so let me just see who I want to give credit to the person who asked this, because she started a thread, winter weave along, summer spin along, and this was Holokilu. It's a Holly, and she's in Oregon, and she said, what about if we have a winter weave along, what about a summer spin along? And so there's been some discussion about having a summer spin along, which I think that would be fun. It wouldn't be the only thing we were doing. It'd be kind of like the winter weave along, where it starts, it goes for a long time. It's, there's a chat thread where people can chat about their spinning, their fiber processing and all of that. But it wouldn't be like the main focus of what we were doing. We might have other things going on at the same time, like the weave along, how the weave along works. So I'm thinking, I've been thinking about a summer spin along and what that might look like. So yeah, I'm thinking that we ought to do that. Summer doesn't start for me until, and I can't wait. You have no idea. You have no idea how excited I am for summer to be here this year. Oh goodness. It starts for me the end of May. Our graduation, well, we aren't having an in-person graduation this year. They're doing a pre-recorded virtual graduation. I think it's May 26th. So right somewhere in the end of May 27, 28, right in there is when the summer spin along will start. And I'll put up a thread. Well, actually, there is the thread already. It's kind of chatting about plans and stuff. And I'll put up a thread when that summer spin along starts. So I think that'd be fun.
I think that'd be fun. I have lots of things that I can spin.
Yeah, goodness knows I have a lot of fleeces to process.
I do too.
Yeah, raise your hand if you have fleeces to process. Jen's raising her hand. Anybody raising 2 hands? That's what I should be doing. I should be raising 2 hands. All the fleeces I have to process. So, and then the other thing I just wanted to mention, the winner from the Winter Weave Along, Sunshine Dee Dee, just want to make sure you contact me. I will contact her if I don't hear from her. If I don't hear from her in the next few weeks. I know people don't always listen right away. They don't, like the minute it downloads on their phone, they like listen. No,
what's wrong
people
with
don't have time for that. Nobody's got time for that. So
they have all the time in the world now to listen to us.
Yeah. You know what's surprising? This is a little a slight tangent, but I listened to a few podcasts about podcasting, and they've been talking about the fact that podcast listening has gone down because so many. Yeah,
because they're not commuting.
But so many people listen to podcasts either while they're at work, or while they commute to work, or if they're on public transportation for anything. That's their podcast listening time. And when they're home, that's not something that they're really able to do. And if you're home with children that you're now homeschooling and, doing that kind of thing, I can see why you just wouldn't have time to listen to a podcast. So anyway, I Sunshine Dee Dee, get in touch with me. I will get in touch with you, but it's always fun to find out you won by listening to the show. So I'm going to give her a chance to hear that she won the Jane Stafford Textiles gift certificate for for a guild membership or anything else she wants to use it for. So, and then that's it, Marsha. I think we've covered everything.
All right. Well, we'll get ready to say goodbye then. I'm glad everybody joined us. It was really fun.
Yeah, me too. I thought that was really fun.
Oh, wait a minute. Here, Julie, I'm just now reading the chat. I haven't been keeping up with it. So Autumn says, my husband is home. Oh, that's not it. I thought it was about the fiber. So fun to meet everybody. I'm sorry. It was Julie. How about a whole storage shelf full of bins of fleeces to process?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I have 8, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it might be more than that.
I know some women in the guild, the Anne's Web Guild, that I haven't been for a really long time, but they have, they store them in 5-gallon buckets. So you stuff them into the 5-gallon bucket and then seal the bucket. I think that's a Judith McKenzie trick to keep the air out of them. Anyway, and then the nice thing about those 5-gallon buckets is they stack one on top of the other. And so they have the whole back of their garage is stacks of 5-gallon buckets with fleece inside. And some of the 5-gallon buckets have more than one fleece, depending on if it's a small fleece or a big
Julie,
fleece.
She just typed just 8? What a slacker.
Okay, so
I guess I should get out there and buy more.
Yeah, we can definitely get some of these fleeces processed and spun this summer.
Alrighty, Kelly, we'll say goodbye then.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2 U's.
Doing our part for World Fleece.